So today I feel not a little. Today I feel compelled to talk to you about me, my story, my background, where I come from, what I've been through. And the reason why I'm doing that is I'm not looking for sympathy. I don't need sympathy. I'm not looking for any type of clout or anything like that. It just puts into perspective what I've been through and then the healing that I've done, and also how I was able to gain a lot of the wisdom and power that I have. So my whole life, I dealt with narcissistic parents. My father was a man who wasn't around when I was a child. He had other women and other families. When he was around, I was his favorite. He used to call me Little Bunkin. He passed away this December. And on his deathbed, I forgave him for everything he put me through, and I let him go, and I took him back to God. And he passed away right there while I was talking with him, because I live in a totally different state than where he was at. So my father, I believe he loved me when I was little. He was very angry. He had a lot of anger issues, and I think those stemmed from his childhood and his father. My father was also not very good to my mother. They had a very love-hate relationship. When they were on, they were on. When they were off, they were off. But I also feel that my mother felt very vulnerable and like a victim in a lot of cases, because she was left with 3 kids to raise on her own while he was out gallivanting and doing whatever he wanted to do. They fought a lot, and then when my father wasn't around, my mother would get frustrated and angry and take out her anger on me, and I took the brunt of her abuse. And then my father, I took the brunt of his abuse as well, because that later on in life, he became a tyrant in my home. And so I shielded my sisters, my younger sisters, because I'm the oldest of 3, and I would shield them from the abuse. I've gone through mental, emotional, physical, spiritual abuse. I've basically delved into or had some semblance of every type of abuse there is. And so my father figure ended up being very narcissistic, very egotistical, very tyrannical. I remember waking up or being woken up in the mornings for school. He would crank up the music really loud and scream at us to get up in the morning at 6:30. That was our alarm. I remember the day he called me a slut. I think I was 15 or 16. I didn't even know what that meant, because I hadn't dated anyone. I never had sex before. And so, but he would call me that every morning, and I never understood why, because I didn't even know what that meant. So just really weird things like that I grew up with. I remember one time it got really bad, and the day I thought he was going to kill me, he came after me, put his fist up in the air, and I was kind of crouched down in a ball, and time stopped in that moment. And I remember flipping through memories and thinking, today's the day I'm going to die. And then he went to swing at me and got right in front of my face, like his knuckles were right in front of my eyes. And he stopped. It was this weird freeze. It was almost as something had come into his body and stopped him. And he turned around and walked away. Of course, that scared the shit out of me. And I think I was 17 at that time. My mother knew of all the abuse that was going on. She buried her head in the sand. She pretended like it didn't exist. She didn't offer any help, never talked to her. I never really had a conversation with my mother. I learned about how to be a woman from school. Um, so I never felt loved by my mother. I never felt like my mother cared about me. The only time I felt like she wanted anything to do with me was when I became successful, when I started to become really successful in sports. Then all of a sudden she was my number one fan and cheerleader. And I noticed that later on in life as well. And I think that has to do with her lack of success. I have other opinions on that as well, but we'll do that another time. Um, in school, I was bullied almost every day, spit on. They threw gum in my hair. I was beat up several times by girls and then the boys. I didn't date a lot. I had really low self-esteem. And then even when I got to college, things got a little bit better. I looked at my teammates and their parents would come to their games and would like show them support and love. And I just thought, what is that? it, I've never had my parents do that. And so that really started to change my mindset on like the abuse that I grew up in, the abusive home. So I lived my life walking on eggshells most of the time, always waiting for the next thing to happen, the next shoe to drop. Went into definitely a victim mentality, very rooted into that. Then in college, one of the first guys I dated, he actually raped me the first night, and I dated him because my sick, twisted, warped mind, I thought that was normal because it had happened to me several times growing up. I dated that man for 2.5 years, and he was extremely abusive, cheated, lied, manipulative, narcissistic, same pattern, because it was never healed. I got into drugs to mask the pain really bad. And in my 20s, I think it was 23, 24, I actually OD'd and died. And I remember stopping breathing and went all the way back to the light. The most incredible peace I had ever felt. And I just felt at home. And I was like, I'm not going back. I'm not going back to that shit show. Fuck that. And unfortunately, they told me I had to come back. That I wasn't done here. That was really sad. It's really sad because most people don't want to die, and I was happy to die. But I got sent back. And I actually rebelled because I was like, well, fuck you. If you're going to send me back here, then I'm really going to try to kill myself. And then the drugs and alcohol got worse. And then I met this man in Chicago. And, I was high. I'm not going to lie. I was high and I was drunk. And he had all these sparkles around him, like literally like firecrackers. It was weird. And I thought, what the hell? And so we talked for hours that night, and I ended up moving in with him like that following Monday and ended up marrying him. 20 years of my life, and come to find out it was a nightmare. It was hell. This man was the ultimate sociopath, absolutely cut off from all of his feelings. The absolute narcissist, egotistical, pathological liar. That man did some incredibly horrible things to me. He held a gun to my head, threatened me if I ever left him, he would kill me. choked me, held me down, followed me. It was a lot of really shitty things, and I was an idiot. I was broken when he met me. I was very victim mentality, very traumatized, and he played the savior role. But he was no savior. He was actually a narc wanting to feed off of me. But I attracted that. It's that narc empath pattern. It took me 2 years of planning to leave him, with a will, telling people what was going on, because nobody knew, because he kept me hidden.